A student's overview of the Ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 47, Esoteric Healing. Law 2. Disease is the product of, and subject to, three influences. First, a man's past, wherein he pays the price of ancient error. Second, his inheritance, wherein he shares with all mankind those tainted streams of energy which are of group origin. Thirdly, he shares with all the natural forms that which the Lord of Life imposes on his body. These three influences are called the ancient law of evil sharing. This must give place some day to that new law of ancient dominating good which lies behind all that God made. This law must be brought into activity by the spiritual will of man. Rule 2. The healer must achieve magnetic purity through purity of life. He must attain that dispelling radiance which shows itself in every man when he has linked the centers in the head. When this magnetic field is established, the radiation too goes forth. What is disease? 1. All disease is disharmony and lack of alignment and control. A. Disease is found in all the four kingdoms in nature. B. Disease is purificatory in effect. C. Definite methods of healing are peculiar to humanity, and mental in origin. 2. Disease is a fact in nature. A. Antagonism to disease simply energizes it. B. Disease is not the result of wrong human thought. C. Disease is a process of liberation and the enemy of that which is static. The law of cause and effect governs disease as it governs all else in manifestation. We found also that healing is brought about in three ways. 1. Through the application of the methods of the many schools of medicine and allied groups. 2. Through the use of psychology. 3. Through the activity of the soul. End of page 242. Causes arising in the emotional desire nature. In a treatise on white magic, I gave the world for the first time information as to the nature and the control of the astral body. This book is practically the first one ever given out to the public on this theme. Much has been given in the past on the subject of the physical body and its care, both by exoteric and esoteric science. Much of it is true, and some of it is illusion. It is illusion because it is based on false premises. Modern esotericists have dealt with the subject of the etheric body, and this too has been partially true and partially false, but it is more generally true from the occult point of view than it is exoterically. The real nature of the phrase subtler bodies is somewhat elusive, is it not? They are not bodies like the physical body. They can be regarded as centers or reservoirs of particular types of force, attached to each individual, and possessing their proper inlets and outlets. They are collections of atoms, vibrating at high speed and colored, according to some schools of occultism, by certain definite hues. They emit a certain tone, and are at varying points of evolution. According to others, they are states of consciousness, and some regard them as made in the likeness of a man. What is your definition, brother of mine? The astral body is, for the majority of mankind, the major determining factor to be considered. It is an outstanding cause of ill health. The reason for this is that it has a potent and predisposing effect upon the vital and etheric body. The physical body is an automaton of whichever inner body is the strongest. When you remember that the vital body is the recipient of the streams of energy, and is in fact composed and formed of such streams, and that the physical body is driven into activity by these streams, it is apparent that that stream which is the most potent is the one which will control the action of the physical body upon the physical plane. There are, however, two streams of energy which must be considered in studying the factors leading to physical plane actions. I would remind you in this connection that disease is an activity of the physical plane. 1. The stream of life itself, anchored in the heart, which determines the vitality of the man, his capacity for work, and the term of his existence. 2. The predominating stream of energy coming from the astral, mental or soul bodies. These control his expression upon the physical plane. With the masses of people throughout the world, and those whom we call the vast unthinking public, the dominating factors are the stream of life and the stream of astral or desire energy. This can be either of a low or medium caliber. With the thinking public, the dominating factors are these two streams, plus a steady inflowing and increasing tide of mental energy. With the intelligentsia of the world and the aspirant, those ready for, or already on, the probationary path, we find the above three streams reaching a point of equilibrium, and thus producing an integrating or coordinating personality. These number amongst them also the mystics of the world and the creative workers, who are conscious of the inspiration and the spiritual contact which indicates a beginning of the inflow of soul energy. With the disciples of the world, we find a group of men and women coming under the control of soul energy, whilst the other three energies are being increasingly subordinated to this higher type of control. It should be borne in mind that there are two other types of energy with which to reckon, when considering intelligent man. 1. The energy which is composed of the fused and blended forces of a coordinated personality. 2. The energy of the physical plane itself, which is finally identified by the aspirant or disciple, and becomes so utterly negated that eventually it constitutes one of the major factors in the release of the centers. Finally, the time comes when the initiate works simply with three types of energy whilst expressing himself in incarnation: the energy of life itself, the negative energy of the personality, and the positive energy of the soul. Thus he is an expression in conscious manifestation of the three aspects of the Trinity. End of page 243. Uncontrolled and ill-regulated emotion. Given these basic facts, it can be seen how wrong emotional attitudes and a general unhealthy condition of the astral body must be potent factors in producing discomfort and disease. This is due to the fact that the vital or etheric bodies of the masses of humanity are governed primarily and swept into activity through the action of the astral body. Agitation in that body, any violent activity under stress of temper, intense worry or prolonged irritation will pour a stream of astral energy into and through the solar plexus center, and will galvanize that center into a condition of intense disturbance. This next affects the stomach, the pancreas, the gall duct and bladder. Few people, and I might well ask who is exempt at this particular time in the world's history, are free from indigestion, from undesirable gastric conditions, or from trouble connected with the gall bladder. The tendency to criticism, to violent dislikes, and to hatreds based on criticism or a superiority complex, produces much of the acidity from which the majority of people suffer. I would like to add in passing that I am here generalizing. So many people are prone to an inferiority complex in relation to themselves, but to a superiority complex where their relation to other people is concerned. Stomachic physical plane effects are closely tied up with the desire aspect of the physical body, which finds expression in the eating and drinking of that which is desired, leading subsequently to those attacks of biliousness to which so many are prone. The ills which are based on criticism, upon hatred, and upon the capacity to judge each other, usually unkindly, work through from the throat center to the solar plexus. This interrelation existing between the centers is one that has never been properly considered. The centers in the etheric body pass varying kinds of energies amongst themselves, and a great deal of the energy transmitted from one center to another is undesirable, flowing from the centers below the diaphragm to those above. The esoteric healer knows much about the inner forces and energies and has some understanding of the basic causes of the exoteric diseases, but his ignorance of man's mechanism is deplorable, and he fails to realize two things. 1. First, that disease is sometimes the working out into manifestation of undesirable subjective conditions. These, when externalized and brought to the surface of the human body, can then be known, dealt with and eliminated. It is well to remember also that sometimes this working out and elimination may well bring about the death of that particular body. But the soul goes on. One short life counts for very little in the long cycle of the soul, and it is counted well worthwhile if a period of ill health, even if it eventuates in death, brings about the clearing away of wrong emotional and mental conditions. 2. Second, disease is sometimes incident upon and part of the process of the withdrawal of the soul from its habitation. This we call death, and it can come quickly and unexpectedly when the soul withdraws with suddenness from its body. Or death can spread itself over a long period of time, and the soul may take several months or years for its slow and gradual emergence from the body, with the body dying by inches all the time. We might therefore conclude that disease is a purificatory process, carried out in order to produce a purer expression, life aroma, influence and soul usefulness. When this is the case, a cure is possible. Disease can be a gradual and slow process of dying and of thus releasing the soul. A cure then will not be possible, though palliative and ameliorative measures are needed and should most certainly be used. The length of the life can be prolonged, but a permanent and final cure is out of the question. This the average mental healer fails to realize. They make a horror out of death, whereas death is a beneficent friend. Disease can be the sudden and final call to the body to relinquish the soul and set it free for other service. In all these cases, everything possible should be done from the standpoint of modern medical and surgical science and the allied sciences, of which there are today so many. Much too can be done from the angle of mental and spiritual healing, aided by the science of psychology. Someday there must come cooperation in these various fields and a synthesizing of their efforts. End of page 244. I have earlier pointed out that the astral body is the prime motivating factor in the lives of the majority. This is caused by the fact that it is the body in which the bulk of human beings are today centering their consciousness. It is the most developed of the bodies at this time, and therefore receives the bulk of the life energy as it comes down the life stream, from the soul, and likewise receives the energy of the stream of consciousness. It is oriented, if I may so express it, outwards or towards the plane of physical experience. That orientation shifts at times and, temporarily in the case of the aspirant, turns inwards. Just as the centers in man, the lotuses of life are depicted as turned downwards and with the stalk upwards in the undeveloped man, but are turned upwards in the case of the developed, so there are conditions in the astral body analogous to this. In the case of the highly evolved man, of the initiate or the master, the astral body is steadily oriented towards the soul. In the mystic, the aspirant and the disciple, the process of thus definitely changing the direction of the forces is going on and producing, therefore, a temporary chaos. The astral body of man, being the latest to develop, the physical and the etheric being the first two in order of time, is still the most alive and potent. It reached its acme of development in late Atlantean days and its potency is still great, constituting the mass potency, the mass emphasis, and the mass polarization. This is also augmented by energies coming from the animal kingdom, which is entirely astral in its point of attainment. I would like to point out here that, as you well know, there are physical correspondences to the 7 centers of forces located in the etheric body, and fed from the astral body. These we call the endocrine glands. These glands are effects of or testifying evidence to the centers, and are in their turn initiating causes of lesser effects in the physical body. It will be of value if we here tabulate some of the things we know, and aid comprehension. End of page 245. The tabulation is simply an outline and its interpretation will be dependent upon the point of view of the student. We shall employ it later and add further columns to it and further correspondences. In all our considerations, what we have to say will have the following synthesis of structure behind it. The soul. The subtler bodies of the mind and the emotions, which are simply qualified energy centers. The vital body with its 7 major centers of force. The endocrine system, which is an effect of the 7 centers, and the determining controlling factor in the physical body of man. The nervous system in its 3 divisions. The bloodstream. All the subsidiary organs of man are effects, they are not predetermining causes. The determining causes in man, and that which makes him what he is, are the glands. They are externalizations of the types of force pouring through the etheric centers from the subtler worlds of being. They express the point in evolution which the man has reached. They are vital and active or non-vital and inactive, according to the condition of the centers. They demonstrate a sufficiency, an over-sufficiency or a deficiency, according to the condition of the etheric vortices. Again, the process of control may be stated to be via the nervous system, the close interlocking directorate of the nervous system, the brain and the bloodstream, as a carrier of the life principle, governs the activities of the man, conscious, subconscious, self-conscious, and finally, superconscious. The three centers in supreme control today for the majority are: 1. The ajna center, the center between the eyebrows. 2. The solar plexus. 3. The sacral center. Eventually, when man will have become that which he is, that paradoxical esoteric phrase, the centers of control will be: 1. The head center, the Brahmarandra. 2. The heart center. 3. The center at the base of the spine. Between the present and the future, the emphasis will be laid upon a constantly shifting triplicity, and each man will be different from his fellowman as to emphasis, as to the conditions of his centers, as to their glandular correspondences in the physical body, and therefore as to the diseases and the ills, inhibitions, and difficulties to which his flesh will fall heir. It is in this connection that it becomes obvious that the work of the physician and of the psychologist must eventually go hand in hand. The three most important aspects of all diagnoses are: the psychological, or the gauging of the inner bodies of man from the angle of their development, their integration and the total coordination of the personality, as these subtler aspects of the human being express themselves in consciousness. The work of the endocrinologist, as he deals with the endocrine glands, viewing them as power stations through which energy, dynamic and illuminating, can pour through from the centers. The physician, who, taking into consideration the conclusions of the two above experts, diagnoses the disease, and treats it in collaboration with the other two. From the above remarks it will be seen that disease emerges into the physical body from the world of the unseen, and from the use, or misuse, of the subtler forces on the inner planes. It must be remembered, however, that disease, as it expresses itself in man, can be generally regarded as due to the following causes, and students would do well to have this most carefully in mind as they ponder on these matters. End of page 246. Individual disease, due to interior conditions in a man's own equipment, to his mental state, or to an emotional condition which can produce serious ills. This is inherited from the past. Disease inherent in humanity as a whole. There are certain diseases to which all men are prone. The germs of these diseases are latent in the physical vehicles of the majority of men, only awaiting predisposing conditions in order to manifest. They might be regarded as group diseases. Diseases which are, curiously enough, accidental. To these a man falls heir when, for instance, he succumbs to some infectious or contagious complaint. Diseases inherent in the soil. Of these as yet but little is known. The soil of our earth, however, is very ancient, and is impregnated with disease germs which take their toll of the vegetable, animal and human kingdoms, manifesting differently in each, yet being due basically to the same causes. Diseases which are the difficulties of mysticism. These are the peculiar ills and complaints which attack the disciples and aspirants of the world. These can be traced in every case to the pouring in of energy through centers which are not properly equipped, or adequately developed, to handle the force. The method whereby these astral forces, which are, as we know, preeminently the determining life forces for the majority of men at this time, work out into manifestation is a relatively simple matter. In the astral vehicle of expression there are, as you may realize, the correspondences of the 7 centers in the etheric body. These are essentially the 7 major focal points of force, and each of them is expressive of one of the 7 ray energies. Let me first of all make clear which centers express these 7 ray types. Center ray quality origin. 1. Head center first, the divine will monadic. 2. Ajna center 7th organization, direction atmic. 3. Heart center 2nd love wisdom, group love buddhic. 4. Throat center 5th creativity mental. 5. Solar plexus 6th emotion, desire astral. 6. Sacral center 3rd reproduction etheric. 7. Base of spine 4th harmony through conflict physical. On the astral plane there will also be found in every astral body 7 corresponding focal points through which energy can enter, raying forth then into the vital centers in the etheric physical body as 7 differentiated types of force. These types of force produce both bad and good effects, according to the quality of the negative dense physical body. These differ according to the type of ray or force, and it may be interesting if I here indicate to you the good and the bad effects and the corresponding diseases. End of chapter 47.